Hello, tribe, and those listeners that are new to the Leadership Longevity podcast. Welcome. Today, I want to introduce to you today a couple that I met inside my business mastermind group. And I've been kind of listening to them as in the background of the meetings and have really come to respect and appreciate their relationship. They've been individually and together, they've had some big experiences and prolific changes in their lives that I make up that would derail people. But instead, they've found a way to collaborate in a really healthy way and create access for people to help support our lives through investment and financial means. Stuart and Denise are both award-winning real estate investors, and they're real estate advisors. They're experts in Canada in the retirement plans that we call the Registered Retirement Savings Plan, and they work with private mortgages and private lending. They're coaches, they're financial life professionals, they're trustees of the SDMA Capital Trust, and they're very proud grandparents of 9. I'm looking forward to you listening and meeting the couple, and we'll commence the podcast shortly. Okay, tribe, I've already introduced this lovely couple, so here they are. Welcome, Denise and Stuart, to the podcast today.
Thank you.
Lovely
Thank
to
you
have
so much,
you.
Dianne.
And this tribe knows how much people from Canada are very heart-centered in me. It's just a natural, a natural love, I'll even declare. It's like, oh. So it's a precious moment for me to always have people from Canada on the program. I would like the tribe to learn. I'm most intrigued by the start of this whole journey for you, which in my world, one of the topics we talk about in the tribe is relationship health. And the two of you started your journey, both having come from divorces and coming together have created just a lovely, huge family. Do you mind just starting your journey off with us today, talking about your relationship and what's it been like?
Well, you want to start?
Sure. I grew up as the son of a Canadian Air Force officer. So my dad was military, and what that meant was that we moved around a lot. By the age of 13, I'd lived in 4 different Canadian provinces. I'd lived in 2 countries. What that meant is that when I watch television or movies and they're showing the typical North American family where the kids have grown up and they've got a hometown, I don't have a hometown. As a matter of fact, with the downsizing in the military, a lot of the places I used to live don't exist anymore. So I ended up in Halifax, Nova Scotia. It was my dad's final posting, and I went to university there, started working there, met a nice lady. We got married. After a number of years, we moved to Ottawa at her insistence, actually. She used to live in Ottawa because she was the daughter of a military person. And it was a difficult move. We were actually separated for about 8 months as we went through the whole difficulty of moving. And I think the marriage was a little weak before then, but that 8-month separation kind of started to drive a nail into the coffin. And so we stayed married for about 5 years after the move, at which point she had just had enough of it. And she told me that she wanted out. And I said, fine. We had 2 kids. At that point, they were older teenagers. And so the kids stayed with me. And the irony of the situation is that she moved back to Halifax. So I was settled here. I was working for the government. And while I was working for the government, I met this nice lady.
That's true. We ended up working
Hi,
with
Denise.
We ended up working for the same department, which is where we met. And I had just gone through a very difficult divorce. As a matter of fact, when we met, I was still at the tail end. It hadn't been finalized even at the time when we met. But, I grew up in Northern Ontario, a family of 5 kids. I'm the only daughter with 4 brothers. So for me, it was kind of fun in a sense that a lot of my best friends have been guys because that's what I had around me all the time, right? So growing up, I'm the only one, believe it or not, being the only girl that kind of left home. Like everybody stayed around. I do have a brother now that lives a few hours away from our hometown, but I'm the one that left. I was always the one that was just like, go, 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 like, and just just wanting to do things, right? Expand my wings and whatnot. So I ended up working for government. I lived about an hour away from Ottawa when I had won a competition and came to Ottawa, and I was driving back and forth. And again, like, anybody who goes through the divorce, you go through a period where things just are not right. And that's how it was. So I ended up I moved to Ottawa, the divorce happened, and then we just continued to work. And then we actually worked in the same area for a while and we became friends. But then he went back to headquarters. I stayed in the regional office, and somehow we reconnected and we thought, well, why don't we just go to the jazz festival together? That's how we started. So it was slowly, and I have to admit, I wasn't ready to jump from one fry pan to the next. So this guy courted me for 4 years before we
good on
ever
you,
even
Stuart.
thought of getting together, right? And when we did, like, we each had 2 grown children. And now we can proudly say that we have a total of 9 grandchildren. And they range from
Wow.
24 years down to just newborn. She's just 6 weeks right now. And it's just been lovely. So my children live in the US and in Germany, whereas Stuart's kids are in the west end of Ottawa. So we've seen them a little bit more sort of growing up. So, but even at that, with my kids, like with FaceTime now, we see each other, we talk to each other often and whatnot. But I mean, it hasn't happened often. We've been able to put all the families together, but when we do, it is so special, and it's just fantastic, right, to be able to do that. So we're in communicate with all of them at all the time. The ones that live far away, we get pictures all the time, through text messages, with iPhone.
Yeah.
We talk to the grandkids, like it's just been fun. So Christmas can be a fun time when we all get together,
And
so
the nice thing is that our kids all get along.
yes.
Oh,
So
brilliant.
we
Yes,
don't
that's
we don't
helpful.
have to worry about that family dynamic that you sometimes get with a blended family.
Yeah. So like I said, 9 grandkids, and oldest being 24. So, and we've been together now 26 years.
Wow. There you
So
go. Well
yeah,
done. Well done, you
yeah.
two. Well
Thank
done.
you. And second time around was so much better. That's all.
You learned. Does that mean that you learned,
That's
or
right.
yeah.
Yeah, we did the trial run first.
I once worked with somebody who would talk about her practice husband.
Oh, okay. That's actually an interesting, that's a whole nother conversation we could have later. All
Yeah.
right. So the other piece that the tribe knows about you is that the pair of you, gone now that you shared that you were in government, for how long were each of you working in your careers?
I did 31 years,
Yeah.
and Denise was
I
almost
did.
20.
Yeah. I was short
Okay.
6 weeks from being 20 years.
Oh, wow. Yeah, 20 years. Let's just call it, right?
But when you've had enough, you've had enough. It
Yeah.
doesn't matter how much time there is. And people were saying, oh,
True.
but your pension will be better if you wait the full 20 years. No, it's time to go. And I did. For the amount of time that we were putting into work, which was 60 to 80 hours a week, at that point, I thought, you know what? We could do that for something that we really, really want to do and grow our own business. And putting the hours, and we get the benefit rather than government getting the benefit from all that work that we've been doing. Because we were the 80-20 rule. We were the 20% that did 80% of the work.
Got it. All right. Yes.
And it just got to a point that things had to change.
Makes sense. So can you tell us, I'd like to, well, personally, and I know the tribe sits in the mindset of, okay, life after work. And there's also curiosity when we have our group coaching conversations with the leadership groups that, well, what's the mindset that somebody needs to have in order to move into creating a retirement when all I can seem to focus on right now is, this unknown or uncertainty about what I even need for retirement. This seems to be this elusive things that we respond to as leaders. Can you speak into what was it like for you? What was the pre-retirement mindset like, and then what the experience after was when you actually cut the lines and were on your own and officially retired from government?
Well, one of the things that led to that is back when we worked with government, like we've been through the financial crisis, the dot-com bomb and all of that. And putting our lives together meant that our finances were shot from the divorce. And we
Mhm.
had, like I said, to do something different so that we could have a better retirement. And we kept looking at our retirement funds that we had. Now in Canada, we have, registered funds that are tax deferred or tax deferred or tax
Exempt.
exempt, depending on the program. But I'm sure every country has their own
A
sort of
version.
funds
Mm.
version of it that they have. And we looked at ours and I go, like, the government has told us, like, we need to start putting this money aside for retirement. So imagine
Mm.
the age that we're at now, and we started when we first started working. So they tell us, we're going to have a nice big nest egg by the time we retire. And we kept looking at it and I thought, this is even
Nest egg.
negative from an 8-year period. I was less than what I was 8 years before. I said, there's no way we're going to have a comfortable
Wow.
by doing
Mm.
this. And we thought, there's got to be a better way. And we looked at stuff, we, investigated, we attended symposiums of businesses and whatnot. And there's nothing really that I thought, when are we going to do this? We're working, so much. And then it just kind of clicked. It's like, we need to do something. And we chose real estate. And one of the big things for us is, again, having that mindset that you want more to life than what you're probably going to get right now with what you have. So you have to
Mhm.
want to do something more. You have to be willing to change. And that all comes down to mindset, basically. You have to have the mindset that there is something there that you can achieve, that you can change, that you can strive for, that has to be there. And a lot of it boils down also to being positive about it, because if you're complaining about where you are today because things are not right, you're overworked, this and that, and if you bring that to everything that you do, that negative mindset, you have to learn to change it. And maybe I'll
Mm.
talk about a little tips later on and stuff like that, but that has to change. So you have to
Yeah.
be willing to change. That's the first thing that you have to do.
The other
Did
thing
you?
I want to mention is that as we decided to make that change, we learned a very valuable and expensive lesson. We refer to it sometimes as our MBA,
Okay.
is that it's important to do background research and educate yourself on what you're going to get into.
Mm.
And we played with the stock market.
Yeah,
Okay.
we
Yes.
did. I was riding the bus every morning to go to work, and this person would get on the bus and I call her the bus friend, right? So that's the only time I'd ever see her, is taking the bus in the morning. And her husband worked in high tech, and she'd get on the bus and we got to talking. So every day, same route. She got off before I did, so I don't even know where she worked. But she says, oh my gosh, today the stock just went up and whatnot. And she was always so excited when she got on the bus. So again, Denise taking, these fantastic tips from a bus person. So we invested, at the time was $10,000 in some of these tech stocks. Well, you know what happened.
You ever heard of the dot
Oh dear.
bust?
So
Oh.
$10,000 turned into $18.34. So that
Oh.
tells you what the little
Painful.
nosedive that it took. And
But I
Yeah.
mean, the
yeah,
main lesson we had in that is we were investing in something we didn't understand. We got
Yeah.
that's
caught in the hype and we got going
mhm.
and we played in the stock market. So as Denise said, as we were looking forward to our retirement years and we thought we wanted to do something, we discovered real estate. So the first thing we did
Yes.
was we educated ourselves. We
Nice.
learned about real estate in order to make sure that we could reduce the risk. Because if you talk to a lot of financial planners, they'll tell you that real estate is terribly risky.
Mm.
Well, crossing the street is terribly risky if you don't know what you're
Yeah.
doing.
Totally. Yeah. I have a question before we get going down that road there a bit is, was there a rejuvenation or a rest period from when you left your business or left the government to where you started making these decisions to do your own thing? Was there like a rest period or recoup or rejuvenation period?
Well, the last year of me getting a paycheck from the government is we started educating ourselves then.
Mm.
And the thing is, we never did is do real estate training or learning during government time while we're getting paid by the government. So you hear sometimes of people running side businesses while they're working. That was not us. So our education was on the weekends and we
Yeah.
traveled and did that education. I retired January 10th, 2010, and we
Yeah.
started investing the next day.
Oh
So
wow.
we
Okay, there you
prepared
go.
ourselves. So there was
Yeah.
no gap in there. But the one thing that we did do is that the last year that I was with government, Stuart and I thought, okay, our finances are a bit strapped here and stuff like that, and we've, rebuilding our lives. What do we do? Because education, mentorship can be very expensive.
Mhm.
So one of the things that we did was we banked my salary. And I thought, can we live in one salary? Because if I'm retiring, can we live on one salary alone? So we had to test that. So we said, okay, I'll bank my salary. Now, back then, I was making just short of 6 figures. I think it was like 97,000 or whatever. That was like in 2009, right? So I was getting paid and we just banked it. We didn't touch it.
Now, to be fair,
That takes something.
I was
Yeah.
in an executive position,
Mhm.
so I had a healthy salary. So it wasn't as if we were going to the food banker and everything. We were able to do it. But the point was that we
What did we
changed our
learn?
lifestyle, we changed our
Mhm.
choices in order to cope with living on one salary. And it's similar to what a lot of young families will do when one person decides to stay home as a caregiver and
Mhm.
they have to figure out how to organize themselves and live off one salary. So we did that as seniors.
And we
Yeah,
learned a
yeah.
very important lesson there is that most people spend because of wants, not
Yes.
needs. And that's something that we learned. It was such a valuable lesson as we did that. Because, I mean, you have more salary, you just spend it, right? So, and many people live by what's the balance at the end of the month, right? So the idea is we've got to change. And again, remember I said mindset, be willing to change. And that's one of the
Yeah.
things we were willing to do. So we banked that salary. So guess what that did? That allows us funds so that we can take the training. It allowed us funds so we can get into the mentorship because we wanted to run out of the gate and be able to recoup all of those years that our retirement funds had totally like squashed and like tanked. And I thought, we've got to rebuild this. And we want to rebuild. So how are we going to do this? Well, that was one of the ways that we chose to do that.
Oh, brilliant. Brilliant. So you were forethinkers is what I call them. You're in the prevention. You also have this, I don't know if you call it that, but there's a prevention mindset, right? So you're already forethinking into what we're going to do for our retirement and you are setting up yourselves up. Just from your experience in there, um, I want to speak to some of the people who talk to me about all I want to do is just rest. I want to take a year, like a sabbatical, not even a sabbatical, just a sabbatical from life. I've even heard people say that to me as leaders when they're getting ready for retirement, just a year off, and then I'll decide what I want to do. Maybe you've come across people, or maybe you've got some kind of insights to speak from, but would you recommend that or not recommend that? Or what are some considerations people might want to
I hear
have?
stories. I hear stories of people that are in, as particularly those that are in high stress jobs, who retire and decide to do nothing and have a heart attack and they pass away.
Mm,
And so doing a sudden change from high impact, high stress, high activity to doing nothing can probably not be a good idea unless you've planned for it. Let's say, for example, your idea is I'm going to take a sabbatical, but I'm going to travel. I've always wanted to see India. I've always wanted to see the East. Great. So you stop work and you start to travel. And if you've got it planned, then it's probably something that's worthwhile. But if your intent is
mm,
just to stop everything and not get out of bed the next morning, I don't think that's healthy.
yeah, yeah. And there's also, because you're in relationship, there's this conversation around, oh, my partner. There's this disabling mindset, like we're talking mindset here, right? Which are, I'm wanting them to have a look under the lid as to what are all the things that you need to take a sneak peek at now that might be obstacles to creating a lifestyle as the two of you did. And alignment as a couple is super important, right? Unless, one person's thinking retirement this way, one thing's thinking that way. Anything you want to suggest or offer the tribe that are having partners that how to find alignment or enable the
Well,
similar path?
you have to try to get on the same page, basically.
Mm,
Now, Stuart and I, which is unlike many other couples, most of our time, because he's retired as well, right? So that we're spending 24 hours together. And I've heard too many couples that they can't stand each other and he can't wait to get out of the house or do something like that. It hasn't been like that for Stuart and I. So it's kind of funny because friends will sometimes joke, they call us and they say, oh, say hi to Stuart. Oh, he's right next to me. And Stuart will just to chime in and say hello, because we spend all that time together, right? We are together. We're building a business together. So we spend a lot of time together. So get aligned with your spouse. And even if you're not doing the same thing, one of the key things is that if your spouse can actually support you in what it is that you want to do, for the changes you want to make. Because if you don't have the support, it's going to be quite an uphill battle. So you have to try to get aligned into what it is that you want to do.
Yeah, that's a great point. We do a lot in terms of executive couples coaching and around alignment. So this is a nice little thread for you to recommend as well. Brilliant. Okay. So what's been keeping you? I know you've given me some questions here and I'm kind of dancing around them a little bit, but I want the tribe to understand there's some nuances that happen in order for you both to stay aligned and be in this. It's a bit of a risk taking, right? You've taken some big risks in your life and to transform it into something pretty substantial for others to learn from. What do you think is what felt like the biggest risk in all of this for you?
The biggest risk. Wow. Like, I know that for us, we want the same things.
Yeah.
Somebody usually wants it faster than the other.
Okay. Great point.
Right? That usually what happens. And remember when I talk about alignment? So sometimes it's like, okay, whoa, kind of step back a little bit. If you want me to go with you, let me kind of catch up, right? So you have to play that dance as well. So, I mean, we like to say that we are Zoomers. It's just boomers with a lot of zip. And you probably notice is like when I speak, whatever, I have a lot of energy. I just do. And I'm from a family that we all have a lot of energy. So for us to move forward, that's okay. Just even at the age that we're at, right? So taking that risk is you just do it. It's feel the fear and do it anyway. That's been our biggest motto that we have worked with, because fear can stop you in your tracks where you just like you're not moving at all. And I got a quick story. We were at a real estate meeting several hours away from here. It was a monthly meeting that we attended. And this investor was there and he came and talked to us. I can't remember if we had just spoken on stage at that time or not. But anyways, he came to speak to us. And he had been going to those regular meetings for 2 years now, and he had never bought a property. And he's talking to me and whatnot. And I'm trying to figure out, and I thought, oh my, the fear in him, you could just feel it, right? So what I told him to do, and I said, I'm going to ask you to do a little exercise. Just humor me, just do it. He goes, okay. I said, close your eyes. And he closed his eyes. I said, now pretending you're standing on the edge of a cliff. And you could just see his face kind of changing. I said, now jump. And his face kind of changed. I said, okay, open your eyes. And you open them. I said, did you notice that there wasn't a cliff? It was just a little speed bump. I said, we make things worse than what they are. So we let the mind wander, but they're usually worse than what they actually are. Can you believe that this gentleman came back the next month of the meeting and he had bought himself 2 properties?
Wow, there you go.
And I thought, wow. And again, something super simple, but it's just getting over that fear.
Yeah,
grab it
brilliant.
by the
I love
reins and
that.
just do it. And
What
if
a great
I
example.
if I didn't live by that motto, I don't think we'd be where we are today.
So
you
that
take
speak into
risks, right?
Yeah. And that's still there's this holistic experience you gave that person, right? Like, here's the reality, right? And how do we give that to ourselves though? Right? There's this, you were enabler. I call that you were like in a coaching moment with them where they were able to have that gift from you to say, try this, close your eyes. And how do we do that to ourselves though? Because there's a different experience there to have us be okay with taking risks. Anything show up for you?
I mean, the one thing is that having good mentors, a mentor that will sort of lead you is important, but doing a lot of reading. reading the appropriate books. I mean, Feel the Fear and Do It Anyways is the title of a book.
Yes,
It is
for a
a book.
reason.
And I mean, there's a number of other books that we've read that contributes to our mindset, that
Yeah.
takes us into the area. And self-talk can be so dangerous unless you direct the sort of self-talk. I remember when I was still working for the government at the officer level, I had just worked on a project, and one of the senior managers, the director general, just came by and congratulated me on the work that I'd done. And he made some comment that sort of stuck with me for years. And I think about Mark Twain's idea that I can live for years on a good compliment. He looked at me and says,
Good.
you know, you'll go as far as you want in this organization.
Mm.
And I thought, okay, so anytime that I started to have some self-doubt, I just looked back and I said, okay, I can go as far as I want in this organization. I just need to apply
Yes.
myself. And so it's this, I think, the
Yeah.
same sort of thing, that as you start to have some self-doubt, you need to have some self-talk that's positive.
You know what
Yes.
says that? And it's not even something I thought about till just now as he said that. One of the practices that I did over the years is sometimes you get a nice note, a personal note that somebody's thanking you for something, or, you know, that type of stuff. And I
Yes.
kept all those notes in a
Oh,
folder. And I
wow.
still have it. But I haven't looked at it for a long time now. But I remember whenever I was feeling down, or you go like, man, like, can I really do this or whatever? I'd take that folder out and I would read these little personal notes. And I thought, what a pick me upper. Trust me.
Yes.
I mean, so
Yeah.
whenever you get little personal notes, whether it's an email or like something on social media or a card, I mean, less cards are being sent now, probably more electronic, but save that, because it can actually just boost your morale at a time where you need it.
Yeah, it's a great reminder. And I'm an advocate for, like, let's send those cards out again to people. But let's bust through this social media lack of connection and send those cards. So, and collect them. That's brilliant. Thank you. It's a good resource. Okay. I'm noticing time, and I want the tribe to hear about, you know, your specific expertise is in private lending, right? So what can you share with the tribe about why this is a benefit for them to be looking at, that's alternative to retirement strategies that exist?
Well, one of the things that we did is we started into our real estate career. We had our retirement funds tied up, as Denise had mentioned earlier, in registered funds that were invested in the stock market and in mutual funds, and we were getting really poor returns.
Mm-hmm.
But as we started investing in real estate, we discovered that there was a potential to use those funds to do private mortgages.
Not your own. That's the important thing.
Okay. Yeah.
The key thing to understand about this is that as long as you do your research so that you understand who you are lending to, there is a possibility of getting a positive return much better than what the stock market over time returns.
Mm.
And if you've got any doubt about whether that is an appropriate thing, take a look at the big banks. What do they do?
Mm.
They
Oh,
loan
yeah.
money on real estate.
The money that
Yeah.
you put in the banks, they use that to loan out.
And so there is an entire market available for private lenders. Now, if you get into this and you don't understand what you're doing and you don't do your research and you don't take precautions, there's a chance that you can lose all your money.
Mm.
So it's
Yeah.
important to understand. I mean, Denise and I have talked to people and we've taught them some of the things in order to go through to make sure that they're lending to someone who has a solid reputation, who is, I mean, our attitude as we've borrowed funds over the years has been, we will do whatever it is to return your funds to you because we know that it's your retirement. And if we're using it, we've got a responsibility to make sure that we're protecting your money, and we're going to make sure that you get your money back before we get any money back.
Yeah.
And it's
Great.
important to find someone like that as your borrower. And there's different strategies, but basically, as Denise says, you can build your own private pension fund quite easily by building a portfolio of mortgages and private loans.
And that's loaning money to real estate investors, of which you've learned about their reputation and everything else, right? Not just every Tom, Dick, and Harry, on the street that you would meet.
Right.
But but by loaning money, that means these investors can actually help, and we'll grow a portfolio, but in turn, and that's how we did ours, is in turn, we're helping these people get a better retirement savings for the future. And we started the very first thing we ever did when we got into real estate. I left government, and at the time, what they did is they still give you a severance pay. You got so much for every year that you had worked with the government. So we were taking real estate classes, and I went to a group of investors and I said, I've got this many thousands of dollars in, registered funds. At the time here in Canada, it was called RSPs. And I said, does anybody want to borrow them for a second mortgage? And everybody said, pick me. And I go, wow, this is something.
Yeah.
So we learned how to lend it out first. And we worked with a lawyer that it was her first time doing a private mortgage like that. And we learned together. And then now we've done many over the years. But by first loaning mine out, we learned, then I said, let's reverse the tables, because we thought, light bulb moment here. These are borrowers and they're borrowing our funds. Why can't we borrow other people's funds? So we've been teaching the public, if you want to call it, about there's an alternative to the banks, and they can get a more predictable return without the ups and downs of the stock market. So like for us, the advantage that we have, we've been not only borrowers, but we lend our money out as well. So we have loaned ours as well, and we continue to. So we work with people and we help them on, call it, both sides of the fence. But by growing a portfolio, we were doing acquisitions. And when we borrow these funds, and it's done with lawyers, it's done with a trustee, like there's a whole legal framework around that, right? That has to be done. So we've done that, and to the point that we speak on it now, because we've gained so much experience since 2010 doing this, that we've gained an expertise right across Canada, and we help people with this. And we teach about it on stage, and we teach real estate investors how they can grow a portfolio. But the biggest thing is, what else do you get out of it? Yes, you can grow a portfolio, but you're helping all those people that were like us, where their registered savings had just tanked. I talked to a woman who said, Denise, I think I made 5% on my registered funds. Now, she had just put in $60,000, and actually some of your viewers here will do the mental math really quick. 60,000 she had put in a year. She says, I think I did 5%. My first question is, did the fund do that, or did you? And she goes, I don't know. And this is the thing, is most people don't even know how much they're making through the banks. They like, it's registered funds. They kind of say, well, here you go. And they think it's being properly managed, right? It's maybe being managed, but it's not being managed for high returns or anything like that. So I asked the woman, I said, do you have a calculator? She says, yes. I said, you think you did 5%? She says, yes. I said, you had put, she told me 60,000. I said, what's 60,000 times 5%? Because it was now her first year anniversary. And as you well know, that would be 3,000. And I asked her, now we're talking on the phone. I said, and what does your statement say now after a year? Total silence. And I go, oh man, she doesn't like what she's seeing at all. So I had to ask again. So her statement was 60,200.
Yeah, so wrong and bad.
This is what people are, once they start looking at their statements, they go, oh, actually just this past week, somebody who is actually moving their funds to a trustee, so because they want to invest with us. And I tell people, when you're going to change those funds to where they are, where the legal framework, or the Canada Revenue Agency says this is someplace where you need to put your funds to allow them to go down in mortgages. So when I help them with that change, his financial planner says, don't you want to make 20%? And I laughed. I said, did you ever make 20%? I said, the fund likely did. I said, did you? He goes, never. This is why, Denise, this is after learning some of the things you teach. He says, I'm making pittance. And this is where people don't realize. Right?
I'd say we are blind. What is the sheep, the blind sheep, kind of blind sheep leading the sheep pack? Big time. I see this all over the place.
Yeah. So that has a lot. Oh, sorry.
I was just going to say why it's a big reason why I have you on this podcast is I really want people to get smarter about what they're doing with their money. You know, they need to understand that the banks are there to make money, just like, you know, people go to casinos and think that they're going to walk away with a big win, but they're set up to win. They're not set up to lose money. So that we need to be doing this in a better way. Yes.
Yeah. So that has allowed us to grow a portfolio, but because we're lenders as well as borrowers, so we have a real estate portfolio, but we have the benefit also of having a mortgage portfolio of our own funds that are invested in mortgages as well. So
Nice.
that's something that has allowed us to grow. But then again, we have a solid 8-figure portfolio. And I know you and I were just talking a little bit, and I said, yes, we lost 10,000 in, well, actually 10,000 minus $18.34,
Right.
in the stocks. But when we got into real estate, the only thing we have seen with by lending our registered funds is this growth, because
Yeah.
the ups and downs of the stock market is not there. And then when one
Yeah.
project is finished, you go to another. So we've built a solid 8-figure portfolio in being able to do this. But now we are, again, at an age where we're just going through more growth, right? This is just something we've decided to do because now we're into development. So we've done a lot of strategies, and for people that are into real estate, like we've done flips, where you do a lot of the renovations. We've done adding accessory dwelling units. We've done wholesaling. We've done multifamily buildings. We've done small multifamily buildings. We've done all kinds of strategies, rent to own and everything, all using registered funds to grow our portfolio and helping people grow their retirement savings.
Brilliant.
Now we're into development. So our next project is building 6-unit buildings. So now it's like a different kind of capital raising that we need to do. And we again needed the legal framework to be able to continue what we're doing. So we've built now, under a new legal framework, a mutual fund trust, which allows us now, not only with the mortgages we did, which is strictly what we call a debt instrument. That means people get paid a percentage rate. Every year they have, a yearly rate that they get paid. Now with the mutual fund trust, they are part of the project in the sense that they now get equity in it. So the returns are even better. The projects are a little longer, but the returns are better. So this is something like somebody says, at your age, you're just created a mutual fund trust. And I go, yep, we did.
Because, absolutely. Hell yeah.
Exactly. I don't know, like,
we got 9 grandchildren. Are you crazy? Right?
Well, exactly. People say, I thought you were retired. We go, we retired from government, not from life.
That's right. Brilliant. Yeah. I love this story. So great.
Yeah. So that's why now, like, we're at a totally different phase again. And again, it's been a learning curve. Like, we've had to work with securities lawyers, accountants, and you name it, to get that a whole other framework now. And it's not a cheap thing to do, but it's what is needed now for even the bigger projects that we want to get into.
Brilliant. Where I'm left with right now on your story is, and by the way, Tribe, I'll definitely give links to connect with this couple if you have, with Stuart and Denise, if you have any questions about where to start. But just right now, what would you offer up? If somebody's like, okay, I'm curious, what's the next step, Denise or Stuart? Where do I start?
My start in terms of what to do in retirement, or what to do with registered funds in retirement?
Yeah, I've got some, maybe they don't even have much in the registered retirement fund, because there's also lots of people I talk to that just opted out of that and decided to just move their money into more lucrative, could be stocks, right? Some people are doing okay in that, and maybe they want to remove the risk and get into something like this now. So what would be that next step?
We talk about registered funds, but cash works too, right? I mean, cash works no matter what. So it's just registered fund is usually known as sleeping money, is people know that they can't take it out yet because they're going to have to pay all these taxes. So it's tax deferred, right? So it's easy for them to kind of lose sight, because it's not money they have that is concrete that they can go spend, which is why it's great to be able to offer that to people, that opportunity to grow those retirement incomes, and not the pittance basically that they're getting through some of the financial planners and the banks and whatnot that are out there, right? In the vehicles that we invest in, which are the mutual funds and some of the stocks. So it's just a different way of, wow, I want to plan a better retirement. That's all. I
Yeah.
want to plan a different retirement. And where do I start?
Mhm.
Is again, where do you want to go? What do you want to do? And it could be just even a change in your life right now on whatever it is that you're doing as a job, as a business. You're kind of fed up. Like you're tired of it. You don't see the growth. Like you just, I want something different. How about if you stop and you really think out? If let's say you're getting into closer to retirement or you are in retirement, right? Is how can you transform those retirement years? That's one of the
Mhm.
things that you can do, right? So again, what's that mindset? You have to watch that mindset because you want to have something different rather than
Mhm.
staying where you are, right? You need to have
Yeah.
that change that
Yes.
you want. So you
Yeah.
have to look at what it is that you've got and where is it. You have to see retirement as a beginning and not an end.
Yeah. Okay.
That's the big thing, right?
Now, the one thing
Yes.
I can say is most of our experience has been in Canada.
Okay.
So we're
Yes. Yeah.
very familiar with what the rules are in Canada. We have contacts in other countries, and we also have mentors who have contacts in other countries. So although we can't give advice on what your tribe who live outside of Canada should be doing,
Hmm.
if they wanted to connect with us and say, can you point me somewhere?
Yeah.
You should be able to find them a contact that can give them credible information.
Great. That's super important too. And for those Canadian that are part of the tribe, here's your go-to. Absolutely. I've never come across a couple that has struck me as so integrity driven in how they show up for people in their work than Denise and Stuart. So I'm looking forward to continuing building my relationship with the two of you and doing some work together.
Thank you, Diane.
Yeah. So I want you to share your three big ideas that the tribe can immediately do to shift how they approach life and create transformation.
Well, I have three big ideas. One of
Yeah.
them, transforming your retirement years, basically transforming your attitude and being comfortable, being uncomfortable. Those are the three main ideas. And I'll give you little tips that are small, but man, can they have huge impact. So when
Awesome.
you think about transforming your retirement years, when
Hmm.
you look at where you are today, and as I mentioned, if you're not quite happy where you are, think now of something that where would you want to be in 12 months from today? When people plan, and when you talk to some of the gurus, plan your 5 years out, 10 years out. Hey, you're in the moment now. Plan 12 months, right? Just start there. Don't plan out like 10 years. It just seems too
Right.
far away. You're in a situation now, you want to change the situation now. So look at 12 months. You go, yeah, but what do I want to do? What is something that maybe you did as a kid that you absolutely loved and you just never had time to do it? And it could be
Mhm.
totally different than what you're doing today, right? We weren't doing real estate before. We did real estate when we started, planning for it at retirement. That's when we started
Mhm.
real estate. That's it. So for you, if you can visualize 12 months out,
Mhm.
right, of something that you'd really, really want to do, then again, it can be something totally different. And give yourself some targets as to what you want to do. So you set yourself a goal, give yourself a target of what you want to reach. What if it was, and I'm just going to use an example, what if it was a monetary target saying, with this new venture that I want to do, and I want to make $100,000 next year. Great.
Mhm.
Set yourself, that's your target. Set yourself a minimum target. Let's say your minimum target is 50K. That's great.
Okay.
But then go for a big skybreaker goal. Like,
Mhm.
which one is like, oh my gosh, this is impossible for me to reach, right? What
Mhm.
is it? Just put it out there. So if you're doing minimum 50K, your target is 100K. Maybe you say, hey, I want to do 10 million. Well, 10 million may be just a little out of reach, but what about 1 million? That could be a
Mhm.
really what I call the skybreaker, but it's really a stretch goal, right?
Yeah.
But tie something with it, tie a reward to it. So 100K, what would be a great reward? It could be a weekend away, right?
Mhm.
Go visit somebody, whatever, just a weekend away, you and your spouse in some chalet, someplace, whatever. Just great.
Now we know what your weekend away is.
Your minimum can be, well, maybe I'll go have a day at the spa, right? You're not going to be getting yourself a car if you make your 50K. That's what I mean. You've got to
Right.
have a goal that is worth reaching, right? So if you've got your $1 million goal, maybe that is a new car. Maybe that's a trip around the world. Make it a big goal, but it has to be something that inspires you, not just words. Because words mean nothing, and it's got to be something, a goal that inspires you, something that you want to do, because that's the only way that you're going to do everything you can to get there. Do a quick self-assessment, right? Is where are you today? This is where I want to reach. Where are you today? Maybe it's a brand new everything. Maybe you're at a 1 from 1 to 10. Maybe you've already started, you just need more growth, maybe you're at a 5, 6. But when you do that self-assessment, it kind of tells you where you are, and then you just say, okay, what do I need to do to move that needle to get to a 10? And it could be talking to other people, taking courses, getting a mentor. There's all kinds of things that it can ensue, but do the self-assessment first. And that's just transforming your retirement years, having a goal to strive for and doing that self-assessment and working towards it. Transforming your attitude. You know what? One of the big things for me is being able to have an attitude of gratefulness and also of being happy. And this little trick is silly, but trust me, we've helped so many people with this. It is unbelievable. Is get a sticky note. Everybody's got a sticky note, I think, in their house.
Totally.
Use a marker and draw a little happy face, right?
Right.
Circle with the 2 dots and a smiley face, and then stick it in your bathroom mirror. When you get up in the morning and you know you have to go to work or go to the office or work the business and you're dragging and whatnot, first thing you're going to see in the morning is someone or something smiling at you. And when someone smiles at you, you can't help but start smiling. And what a way to start the day when you can put a smile on your face, because it sets the tone for the rest of the day. Now, it may mean that this little happy face, you put it also on, all bathroom mirrors, and you put it on your door. You put it on the exit door. If you need to have more in there to remind you to put on a happy face, do it. But one of the big things I can tell you right now is when I remember, like, even if it's something that you have to do, that you have to get on the phone, and when you have to make these phone calls and you feel like the phone is like 1,000 pounds and you don't want to make the call, put one of those little happy faces next to the phone and it makes you smile. And guess what? When you have to make either a difficult call or just call somebody, your voice automatically transforms to like a smiley face, to the point that you come across so much stronger and better and confident in everything as you're having that conversation. And silly, but so many people have come back to us, and I get these little notes. Denise, I didn't want to do it, but guess what? It has worked wonders. I thought that was fantastic. And another little trick is before you go to bed. Let's say, oh, I have to remember this, I have to remember that. Take a little notepad, just jot those things on a piece of paper so that the paper will remind you later. Your mind can stop thinking about it all night. Oh yeah, I have to remember this. I didn't do that and I should do this. Just put on a piece of paper and then write down 3 things that you are grateful for that day. And again, it puts a smile on your face. It calms you down. You're more at peace and you have a restful night and you're ready to start the day again. And then you walk in the bathroom and that little smiley face is looking at you. Right?
There you go. You got nice bookends.
It just sets the tone. So, and the other one basically is getting uncomfortable, or getting comfortable being uncomfortable. Because guess what? You're going to be doing something different. Like, you probably have to look, what you're doing right now is probably routine. It's very familiar to you. You want growth, you have to get out of the routine. You have to do something different. There's no ifs or buts. You have to do something different, right? And if it means that, and I'll give you an example. We belong to the local real estate club here. We've been on the executive of it too for many years. And one of the things that we do for new investors that come in, we have what we call an action taker segment. And people who've done something over the last month that they get proud, like a little something that moved their business forward, they get to go on stage. And as you know, public speaking is probably the worst thing that people could ever go through, right? They'd rather die than do public speaking. And this is a way to be able to even train. And this is something that was built into this club, is people go on stage and they have about 10 to 20 seconds. That's it. We're not talking even minutes they go up on stage and they say, I did this month, people clap and they just like run off stage, right?
Yeah.
It is so frightening to do that the first time. But then over time, you see the confidence that these people build by going up there and just sharing, I did this month. So that may mean that you have to volunteer in an organization and ask to speak in front of a little group, right? So just that type of stuff, little tips that make big impacts.
Love those. Appreciate those so much too. And these are all, I hope that the tribe's listening and taking note, because these are all things you can implement right away. And the action taker, though, as the example of being on stage, I mean, an action taker can be anything that has them start wanting to learn something new. Maybe they need just to, what's that little that you can build in now while you're not even at retirement, but you can start practicing what it means for you to grow outside your comfort zone. Brilliant. Thank you. These are all so juicy and wonderful, and they can take them right away, which, you know, I find valuable, and the tribe will definitely find valuable. So thank you for that. I'm definitely going to have the two of you back. This has been, I want to go deeper into some of the learnings, and after we have some conversation, I'd like to be able to bring to them some tangible next steps where they can specifically look at what they can do with their retirement savings. So hold me into your place, whatever that is, place setter for the new year. And tribe, you know, we'll have in the transcript where you can find Denise and Stuart to ask questions. They've generously offered up their time and energy to even support you finding connections. And when geographically, wherever you are, they are there to support and offer. And if you're in Canada, well, boy, it's your lucky day, because your life can be transformed by just meeting these two and start learning a whole new process for what you can do with your financial situation in terms of your investing or in private investing learning, which is fascinating to me. Okay, any last minute thing you'd like to share before I have the two of you step into your hot seat and we have some fire seat questions that the tribe always wants to know from our guest? But anything that you'd like to add to complete your share with the tribe today?
You know, a quick tip is just plan your goals, plan your future. You know, it should not be based on what you're doing now or even what you've done in the past. It could be totally different. Just plan yourself a new future and work towards it.
Beautiful. Stuart, how about you? Any tips or last?
There's a number of things that run through my mind because I draw inspiration from all sorts of places, but there's an American speaker by the name of Les Brown.
Yes.
Who was quite famous. And one of his lines was, if you fall down, make a point of falling down on your back. Because if you can look up, you can get up.
Ah, nice. Wow, that's really, actually, that one gave me some tinglies, interestingly enough. I'll have to reflect on that one. Brilliant. Love it. Thank you. Okay, so what we want to know from the tribe point of view is when we think about leadership longevity and we're setting ourselves some future goals, to us, there's a marker, and a lot of times leaders are considering what age, like I'm asking them all the time, what age do you even want to live to, right? What about the two of you? To what age are you wanting to live to? And what would that allow you both or individually to be able to do, have, or be?
Well,
I mean, Denise and I come from good genes. Our parents, both my mom and my dad, were in their mid-90s when they passed.
Oh, great.
And I know that Denise's mom was 94.
Just short of her 95th birthday.
Now, her dad had worked industrially, and he had some health challenges because of that. So he didn't, I mean, even with emphysema, strong emphysema, and he was on oxygen for the last number of years, although it was portable oxygen, so he was able to continue to work in his wood shop and do things. I mean, he had said that he wanted to live to be 80.
And he did.
Yes.
And he did. So
there you go.
Denise and I figure that with the genes we've got behind us, we're going to live into our 90s.
Oh, yeah. I was going to say, Denise's plan is living past 100.
Yes, brilliant. Okay.
That's my plan. It's past 100. Like I said, our good genes, mid-90s. I mean, It just is, because now with
Right.
medical advancements and everything else, and like I said, we still have lots of energy, right? I have a brother that's just turning 80 actually in 2 days, and he's still as active as we are today and everything else. And our parents were like that, and that's what we want. There's still
Brilliant.
so many people that we want to impact in this world.
Mm,
Like it like it's that drive. How many more can we help? That's what
yeah.
drives us, right? And plus, we want to be able to see our grandchildren grow and great grandchildren. That's something else too, right? That we want to do.
Yes.
So for us, it's just having that impact and
Yeah.
being able to do that and having that longevity to be able to do that. And right now we can, so we do.
Yeah. So it's in the genes, but also you have some strong purpose, meaning that kind of you get up and go. Yeah. Brilliant.
And you
But
need
what,
that when you get up in the morning, right?
I
You
mean,
have to have that purpose in the morning when you get up.
one of the lines I like to use is that I'd rather burn out than rust out.
I remember I wrote this down when I on it. Here it is. It's right close to me. I'd rather burn out than rust out. You said that to me last time, and I kept that one. I'm like, dang, I really like that. Where could I use that? So thank you for the reminder.
Uh,
Okay.
Funny.
Is there anything or something that scares you about growing older?
Well, maybe just the fact that what if we get into a health challenge, right?
Mhm.
And we're hoping that this won't happen, but I mean, eventually, you know, things will happen. I mean, you do
Mhm.
age, but that's the one thing that kind of holds us back. So one of the ways we do that is we keep active, we keep mentally active, not just only physically, but mentally as well, because that keeps us going. And having that life purpose to want to do something as well keeps us on the go, right? To be able to do that.
Yes.
So that's something that is very sort of important to us as well. So well, like I said, taking care of your health is super important. That's the one thing that everybody,
Primary.
eating good stuff, which again feeds the body for what it is, the nutrients that you need. So these are all things that people know about, but sometimes they just don't take the time to do it.
Mm.
So it's time to reevaluate, what about your health? What about your sleeping habits? That type of stuff.
Yep.
And just having that purpose. Remember what I said about the tip about having that goal? Have that goal. Have a stretch
Mm.
goal, because that's going to keep you going. It's going to keep you motivated. You're going to keep you wanting to learn. And
Yes.
we're lifelong learners is what we are.
Yes. I think that's another thing that allows that aspect, purpose, meaning for both of you, encompass your value system. All right. Who is the coolest older person you know, dead or alive? And what makes them cool to you?
When I was warned that you might ask this question, I started
Warned.
thinking about it. And to be quite honest, one of my inspirations is Nelson Mandela.
Mm.
I mean, I've had enough experiences in my life that I could have carried a lot of regrets. I could have carried a lot of um, negative attitude towards. And I think about Nelson Mandela, who spent almost 3 decades locked in prison. And when he finally got released, he didn't go for revenge. He didn't come out with a negative attitude. He came out with a positive attitude, and he helped create the nation that is South Africa today. And
Mm.
he made a point of not being stuck into hatred for another race, even though that was why he was put in prison.
Yeah.
So I find him very inspiring, just the way that he came, he put the past behind him and looked
Mhm.
forward. I mean, one of the things that I've heard, and I espouse it as well, is don't spend time wishing for a better yesterday.
Yes. What a waste of
Look
time that
forward
is, huh?
and move forward.
And that's
Yeah.
one, but we've got one more on the personal side too. And for that, I would say it's my mother and Stuart's dad. Stuart's dad, at the age of 94, was living in a two-story house by himself. He was cutting his own grass, shoveling his own snow. He even bought himself a brand new car. He was volunteering at the Veterans, it's
The
called
Royal
the
Canadian
Legion.
Legion,
Yeah,
yeah,
so
the
Yeah.
Veterans Association.
Veterans Association, and he took care of a horse. So he's doing that at 94, right? And my mom, because he passed away at 95. And my mom was just short of her 95th birthday. But my mom, even from the time she was in her 60s and even into her 90s, mom could never find anybody to take a walk with her because she walks too fast.
Oh,
Like,
wow.
she remained active. I mean, taking
Yeah.
stairs and all of this stuff like is nothing for her, right? So this is why we want to remain active, not only with our minds, but also with our bodies, because that ensures some longevity there.
Yeah, brilliant, you two. That's a wonderful way to close out the podcast. And the one thing that all of us will appreciate here at the tribe is that you have a holistic view across everything. It's not just a singular thing that you're working on. You really get that all of it matters. And we really appreciate that. So thank you so much for spending your time, especially for anybody who's listening. This is actually getting pretty darn close to Christmas. And people who have a big family like you, especially 9 grandchildren, even spread all over, I imagine I've got a lot to do. So thank you for taking the time. I really appreciate that.
Our
And
pleasure.
I look
Thank
forward to
you
having
so
you back.
much. Yeah, thank you so much. This has been wonderful. It's been a lot of fun. So we appreciate this, Dianne. Thank you so much.
Of course. And we'll see you very soon. Tribe, have a look at the transcript. You'll get access to Stuart and Denise there. And be sure to hang around the Leadership Longevity Institute because you'll be seeing for sure more of their content inside the Institute. Ciao for now, you two. We'll see you soon.
Bye-bye.